Well, let's get started. My name is Craig Colley. I am the head of strategic corporate planning for Precious Timber. I am not an investment advisor or giving any investment advice. The webinar today is for information purposes only and for educational purposes only. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you had lots of choices, and I'm glad that you're joining us today. I'm going to try and perform a little miracle to enable you to see the world of investing perhaps a little bit differently. Today I'm going to be asking you to use your imagination just to try and think how different your world would be if you made different choices when it comes to your financial future. Many may be thinking about retirement, leaving a financial legacy for your family, a succession plan, self-funding long-term care, taking vacations, maybe buying some toys, paying off your home, or simply sustaining your quality of life. With life expectancies increasing every year, maybe you're concerned about running out of money, especially when 7 out of 10 people will need some form of care as they age. We're going to address those concerns and provide a few solid and historically proven solutions to seriously consider today. And did you know the average age for a man now in the U.S. is 86.8 years and a woman 88.4 years? That means that more than half will live longer than by 10, 20, 30 years. And most retirement, pensions, and Social Security plans were not designed to handle this longevity of life. In fact, recently Time magazine had an article that predicted that the person who will live to 150 years of age has already been born. So some fascinating things happen in our lifetime, and our opportunity today is going to be addressing many of those issues and concerns, and hopefully provide a very valid and good conclusion for you to take advantage of today. So I'm going to begin by telling you my story and how utilizing my imagination has brought me here to present this webinar to you today. I'm a former marketing director of a banking, insurance, and financial company with assets over $300 million. My marketing budget was over $1 million on an annual basis. I'm also a licensed insurance agent and broker. I also owned and operated my own chain of retail stores, and I've been involved in tens of thousands of financial transactions throughout my career. So I know about traditional forms of economics. The reason I tell you this is because I want you to know that the person you're listening to, someone with experience in both the private and corporate sector of business, and one who is a financial professional. About 15 years ago, two business colleagues of mine who had already done business with in another venture approached me with a new opportunity they had discovered. We'd already had a mutual respect for each other, and our past endeavors had been very successful, so I listened to what they had to say. They told me of a place where there was an evolving real estate opportunity unlike anything that I've ever seen before. And as I listened, I realized I needed to be extremely open-minded and not too quick to judge, as what they were revealing to me seemed too good to be true, and me being a recovering skeptic, well, I had to keep my thoughts to myself until they finished. I learned about this incredible landscape and natural resources of a place that's seen one of the most enchanting locations I'd ever heard of. Land of volcanoes and jungles and forests and massive lakes filled with warm water, and a climate where I would never need more than a t-shirt, pair of shorts, and flip-flops. To me, this was paradise. As time passed, I did get involved. I became a customer first and then a business partner later, and purchased several pieces of the coastal property. This picture is a beach about a 1-minute walk from one of the lots I still own today. Just still hard to believe, but I got in at the right time, took advantage of an opportunity that presented itself, did my homework, and it's been no regrets. I personally love the outdoors, so the activities like surfing and all the water activities. When you're in the jungle, the zip line in the jungle, and the abundance of wildlife. I'm still amazed by the wildlife in the region. All forms of wildlife in the region. And the land is also rich in culture and history. So that's something else that I was interested in as well. But since 2001, when I first visited and found out about the opportunity, tourism has expanded from 200,000 to 1.5 million visitors a year in 2014. There's a new airport. There's abundance of flights, and it's about the same distance as going to Hawaii from Los Angeles. The infrastructure of roads, hotels, restaurants, car rentals with Many of the familiar brands found here in the U.S. are all there as well. The country's political and economic stability has grown year after year and is now considered in the top 2 of the safest countries in the region. Because of the focus on tourism and international business, the economy has continued to grow with many additional opportunities. And the affordability factor still hasn't changed that much even at today's standards. It's not uncommon these days to see the evolution of the region on shows like Survivor, which shot 2 seasons in this location. Also featured on shows like International House Hunters. Things like this do not happen unless there's growth and stability in a country. Another huge perk is the U.S. dollar is accepted virtually everywhere and is preferred in most places. And if you've ever traveled abroad anywhere, currency exchange can be not that fun to deal with. So that's also been solved. But based upon that this was a traditional type real estate endeavor, and in this case the land was intended for residential and commercial property development, it's also vulnerable to global economic shifts. And in 2008, when the markets crashed, well, the real estate flatlined here as well. However, once again, as fate would have it, this opportunity kept giving. And in the process of scrambling to figure out what to do, it was brought to my attention that we had an abundance of precious hardwoods growing on many of our properties, hardwoods like mahoganies and cedars. And it turned out that the wood from the trees, when harvested or brought to market, had more value than the land would have had using it for its original intention. So we started to plant trees, thousands of them, and in time opened the opportunity for a handful of accredited investors to participate. Once again, because we used our imagination. So I hope you're ready to use your imagination and discover what could possibly change your life and your financial future forever. So let's get started with our discussion today of why alternative agriculture now. And I'm going to break it down into 6 different topics. We're going to talk about the economic landscape, who is utilizing agriculture, assessing risk, generating super wealth, portfolio diversification, and making decisions today about tomorrow, taking action and doing something. Beginning with agriculture basics, just to give you a little rundown, it's a renewable commodity. It has increasing global demand. There's low cost of management and maintenance. It's a non-correlated hard asset. It's outstanding inflation hedge that requires very little in the way of capital expenditures or management, and has biological growth of 6 to 8% a year. And talking about the current economic landscape, well, in the U.S. there are untold trillions in unfunded liabilities. And it's reported recently that the U.S. debt to hit $20 trillion. I can't even get my head around that. And I agree with many experts, as seen frequently on your 24/7 news cycle, that another credit default crisis is brewing, another stock market and real estate crash is imminent, and another bubble is about to burst. You can't avoid this story. So when will the economy collapse? When will it collapse? Well, no one really knows. No one really has that financial crystal ball. But there are a few things that we do know. We do know the traditional markets, well, they act like roller coasters. They go up and down, up and down. Historically, that's what's happened. And this is one of my favorite graphs here. When it's high, greed kicks in and most are encouraged to buy. And when it drops, fear sets in and most are encouraged to sell. My favorite part about this graphic is repeat until broke. So, who is utilizing agriculture in their portfolios? Well, Yale University for one. Did you know that endowments were up 100% over the past decade? With all the things that have happened in the past decade, they were still up 100%. One of the reasons was in 2012, only 6% of their portfolio was in U.S. equities. And about half of Yale's portfolio is invested in real estate and timber, among others. Harvard University is another. Harvard's holdings of forests, farms, and other natural resources have grown to about 10% of the portfolio, worth more than $3 billion. And I'm going to read you a quote from the Chief Executive Officer of Harvard Management. What I want is properties that produce something that the world is going to want more of, and timberland is the perfect example. Think about that. What I want is properties that produce something that the world is going to want more of. And timberland is the perfect example from the Chief Executive Officer of Harvard Management. Bottom line, if you want to invest like Yale and Harvard, diversify beyond mainstream U.S. stocks and bonds, and invest in non-traditional assets like timber. Moving on, I'm sure this is a person that you recognize. One of the 3 commodities to bet with Buffett is timber. Timber or lumber has been one of the best performing commodities in recent years, and it's outpaced the S&P 500 by gaining approximately 14% each year since 1987. Bottom line, billionaire money manager Jerry Grantham says it this way: timber is the only low-risk, high-return asset and the best long-term investment. Grantham's investment team and his firm GMO recently offers predictions on the performance of various asset classes. You may be surprised to learn that timber was #1 on that list. If you want to invest like Buffett and Grantham, strongly consider low-risk, high-return, hard assets that have the best long-term investment potential and a history of growth. Now, what presentation wouldn't be complete without charts and graphs? Well, I've got a few of those for you as well. The National Council of Real Estate Investment Fiduciaries, or NCR-EIF. You can see the wide gap between the timber growth compared to the S&P 500, reported since 1989 in this particular figure here. How does it line up with inflation? Here's the correlation with inflation. Timber outperforming once again, difference, wide margin over U.S. equity. And farmland in general. This is the comparison of farmland, apartments, all commercial real estate in the S&P 500. You can see there's a trend going here. And in 2008, when the stock market fell 37%, timber rose more than 9%. And did you know during the Great Depression, when stocks plunged more than 70%, timber gained 233%. But you don't have to take my word for it. Here's a book I recommend, The Alternative Answer by Bob Rice. In this book, he details much of the information I've been talking about in this presentation, and this is one of my favorite quotes. Some members of the real assets category are special, and first is timber, an excellent resource if you want to go deeper into the subject matter we've covered so far. So we're going to talk about now assessing risk. Life is all about taking risks, no matter what it is. And assessing risk prudently is key in order to create favorable results. So I'm going to break it down into 5 steps. First step, get the facts. Apply the principle of information. Wise investors think before they act. They do their due diligence to fully understand the steps they take. And I know when I first got into this and looked at this opportunity, I looked for the negatives. And the more negatives I looked for, the more positives I found. The more negatives I looked for, the more positives I found. I got the facts, enabling me to make a decision. Second step, count the costs. Apply the principle of valuation. Judicious investors do not begin before completely identifying what's being offered and what it will cost. Third step, plan your steps. Apply the principle of preparation. Intelligent investors do not begin before calculating the ups and downsides and timing involved in any opportunity. Fourth step, set a goal. This is one of the most important. Apply the principle of declaration. Knowledgeable investors know goals are a necessary statement of trust, faith, and belief in a probable outcome. Think about it. Did you ever start a diet, you want to lose some weight, or improve an employment situation, or quit a habit, and you didn't set a goal, didn't have a target to aim at? How well did that work out for you? About making a declaration to someone, including yourself, that this is what you're trying to achieve. The fifth step, most important, take action. Informed investors know when to stop thinking and start doing. And that's what we're going to focus on today, how to take action and do something with the information that you're gathering here today. So let's move on and talk about what the super wealthy do. How do they do it? How do they build their wealth and hold on to it? Well, they focus on wealth protection and preservation primarily, and they include assets like timberland to safeguard their money, to build legacies, to create generational wealth. They always insist on loss avoidance. And they seem to always have the things that everyone wants, the beautiful homes, the cars, jewelry. They can shop, they can vacation. Seems like they have it all. But these perks of wealth are not what motivates the super wealthy. They're results of their efforts. They're results of their earnings, and they are results of their successfully executed economic plans. They focus on loss avoidance. They embrace long-term wealth creation over short-term profit speculation. They focus on generational wealth that will last 100 years, not 100 minutes on Wall Street. For 100 years, not 100 minutes on Wall Street. Why? Because liquidity is an imperative. Absolute, necessary, or required. In fact, it should be avoided. The last thing the super wealthy look at are assets that are liquid. Super wealthy are interested in glaciers, not bodies of water. And just to give you another reference for more information on this subject about building family wealth, I recommend this book, Family Wealth by Bill and Will Bonner, How to Build Family Wealth and Hold On to It for 100 Years. An excellent read and may help you in your thinking and your discovery of the opportunity we're talking about today. So what do? How do you actually diversify your portfolio with in-ground hard assets? Well, for sure, one thing you want to have is include a shock absorber asset in your portfolio, something that's going to minimize losses and even profit in periods of great turmoil. Something's going to take the blow, ride the wave, and weather the storm. You also want to think long-term, think generational. Make the extra return by holding less than fully liquid assets to earn yourself an illiquidity premium. Most investors miss this extra profit completely for simply holding on to something for an extended period of time. Because real assets start in the dirt, because safety is in the dirt. Nothing is stronger and more reliable than Mother Nature. Nothing. And with agriculture in general terms, most crops must be harvested and sold in a narrow time window. But as a timber owner, if you don't like what you see out there in the world markets, you can skip a year of harvesting. The asset will just keep growing and ready for sale when the conditions improve. The ability to store, or as Warren Buffett says, bank on the stump, provides a level of flexibility that other income-producing assets just don't have. As an example, in traditional real estate endeavors, you'll never get back a year of missed rent on an office building. It just won't happen that way. Timber is also an excellent fundamental way to play the expansion of the world economies. The Asian markets in particular are showing a strong demand for wood. A projection by the UN shows timber consumption doubling over the next 3 decades, and guess who? With China leading the way. There's also a strong worldwide demand for cellulose specialty products, which have a wide range of uses, from pharmaceuticals to paints. So even when newspapers and magazines disappear, the markets continue to expand. Here's more people that know. At the bottom here, Ted Turner. Ted Turner owns more than 2 million acres in timber. Billionaire Brad Kelley invested millions in timber as one of the largest landholders in the United States. Why? Because of biological appreciation, which protects purchasing power. Like we mentioned before, the NCR-EIF's Timberland Index returned approximately 14% from 87 through 2014. The reason is biology isn't negatively affected by the markets. Trees grow no matter what happens to the stock market. They simply don't care if there's the change in the political climate, or there's a up and down in the stock market. They just don't care. They just continue to grow. That's the beauty of this type of hard asset. So let's look at the benefits of timber. Let's see how it lines up with everything we talked about so far. Does it provide portfolio insurance? Yes. Wealth creation? Yes. Wealth preservation? Check. Generational financial security? Check. Low risk? Check. High return? Check. The reason is, with timber, the power is in the seed and the earth, from a sapling to a log, to create beautiful, valuable items like these woods. Wood used in high-end homes and restaurants and hotels, and glorious furniture and flooring and doors and windows. This is the type of mahoganies that we grow. Beautiful. This is a form of some of the cedar that we grow, to give you examples of the high-end quality that we produce. wood used in luxury yachts and boats and the finest automobiles money can buy. Just gorgeous things, very valuable. And our timber plantations are located in Central America. Up here is Mexico, down here is South America, and we're right in the middle of that region in a country called Nicaragua. Why Nicaragua? Well, mainly for the type of climate best suited to grow what we grow, the economic conditions of low-cost labor and farmland real estate, the volcanic soil, ample rainfall, a tropical climate with an average temperature of 85 to 95 annually. We're next to the 19th largest freshwater lake in the world, stable political climate that is focused on building international business with an added opportunity where a foreigner can actually own the real estate. This isn't like a Mexican deal. This is where you can actually own the land yourself. It's your land, it's your trees, and we manage it for you. And interestingly enough, in this region, trees grow about 30 to 40% faster than in cooler areas like the Northwest of America growing the same species. We have many plantations in this region. This is a close-up. Once again, this is Costa Rica down here. Managua up here, which is the capital of the country. That's where you would fly into. Down here is about an hour-and-a-half drive into our plantation area. Over here is the 19th largest lake in the world, and over here being the Pacific Ocean. It creates a wind flow of the perfect climate for our opportunity. That's why we're there. Also going to show you what an example for illustration only of how it's laid out. For example, this is our corporate plot area. We parcel out on an annual basis smaller private ownership plots for accredited investors. So it gives you an idea of what it looks like. The next slide here shows you a close-up of that area, topical area here, an aerial shot here, and detailed information about the lot or the plot of land if in case this was yours, for example. So that's exactly what you get. And there's always been the question as to, the safety of the region. And that's always come up in every conversation we have, and it was a major concern of mine as well. And all I can say to address that is I've been down there for 15 years along with the principals of the company. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, I was a client first. I actually even took my fiancée down there to get engaged, and she said yes, so that was another bonus to the area. But just to know that the company is owned by two American businessmen, Alex Wilson and Ken Ross, and Ken has lived down there for 14 years, married to a Nicaraguan woman who also works with the company along with many members of her family. So we put hundreds of people to work in an area they didn't have those opportunities. We have reforested a devastated country, and things change, and there's always the perception versus reality. And I'm here tonight to try and help to shatter the myth, because things change in the world. Nicaragua is not what it was years and years ago. It's changed. And I always use the example of Japan, Korea, Germany, Vietnam. And remember, the more negatives I looked for, the more positives I found. Well, in those areas, things have changed. And years ago, you would never go to any of those regions to do any kind of business or touring or vacationing. But things change, and it has in Nicaragua too. And think about this. We currently manage over 30 million in corporate assets and about 15 million for our private ownership program. Our goal is to hit 100 million by the end of 2016. We currently have 5,000 acres planted, another 6,000 for next year, and 18,000 under contract for future purchase. Do you really think a company would invest that kind of capital and be there for over 15 years if the region wasn't safe? Of course it is. That's what we do. And that's why we are so confident and we have so much trust in what we are offering those that are interested. But that's not all we do. As you know, timber, as we have discussed, is a solid long-term option for financial stability. But we also offer something else for those seeking a faster return in an annual income stream that starts after year 4. Coconuts, the fruit of life. And you can't go anywhere in a store these days or in a grocery aisle and not see coconuts in something. The beautiful part about the coconut is every piece of it gets used, from the shell to the meat inside. Used in coconut water, oil, butter, shampoos, skin lotions, activated carbon, sustainable fuel alternative, medicinal purposes. just a long laundry list of uses, and it's not a fad. It's not something that's going to be going away anytime soon. In fact, most people don't know that a coconut tree lives to be 50 or 60 years old. And another little bit of information on the coconut. Did you know that Pepsi-Cola is the largest owner of coconut farms in the world? And recent reports indicate the sale of coconut water now rival orange juice and soda pop. So this isn't a changing fad. This is something that's here to stay and is growing in demand. Once again, going back to that statement of Harvard, they want something the world's going to want us more of. To produce something the world is going to want more of. Well, we've got two items, the timber and the coconuts. And I'll give you a really good comparison. Like I said earlier, I'm also a licensed insurance broker, and I'll give you a comparison of how the coconut lines up with annuity, because they're similar in some respects. Both funded by a principal amount and generate an income stream. The biggest difference is, in an annuity, annuities usually have a period of time and then they stop paying. Or if you have a variable type annuity, you may have a valued amount to the policy that was going to fluctuate, just like the markets do, like we talked about before. And there's also surrender fees involved with annuities. Well, the coconut starts producing after year 4. By year 6, it's at full production. For the next 45 years, it's a constant income stream. I don't know of any annuity that can compare to that, but they do function similarly to begin with. So what are we? Well, I can tell you what we're not. We're not a REIT, we're not a fund, and we're not a partnership. We're what you call a pure play. You own the dirt, and we manage it for you. It's that simple. You own the dirt, you own the trees, and we take care of it for you. Here's a few pictures of, this is some of our workforce, our labor force on one of the plantations. These are our 3 principals of the company, Hugo, Alex, and Ken. Down here are some coconuts getting ready to be planted in the ground. And over here are thousands and thousands of saplings from our grow houses. So you can see this is on a massive, large basis. And if you go to our blog, periodically we have postings of our plantings. And we've planted thousands and thousands of coconuts this year as well. And so it's a very exciting time for us. The end product, picture of timber heading to the mill for manufacturing. So it leads us to our 6th point of the day, making decisions today about your financial future tomorrow. In the past, the financial means and know-how has only been available for the super wealthy. Well, Precious Timbers changed the financial playing field by offering the same opportunity but at a manageable starting point for accredited investors. And we're going to show you how easy it is to diversify your portfolio with groundbreaking hard assets like timber and coconuts. Because real assets, like we mentioned before, safety is in the dirt. And most experts agree that endowments and financial portfolios should have at least 20% of hard assets. That's why we focus on diversification so strongly. So you're asking yourself, what do I do to get involved? What's really involved? Well, it's just 2 simple steps. 2 steps. You plant and you wait. You plant and you wait. There's really nothing more to do than that. And oftentimes we're asked, well, how long do I have to wait? Well, with timber can take 8 to 12 to 15 to 18 years or longer. But you think, well, wow, that's a long time. I don't know if I want to wait that long. 15 years is a long time, but I'll give you an example of a 15 years analogy. And it's so true. The older we get, the faster time goes. Absolutely true. But think about this. Think about where you were during Y2K. In fact, picture where you were 1999 New Year's Eve. You probably remember where you were in the turn of the century. Well, that was 15 years ago. It goes like that. Imagine if you planted a tree 15 years ago that cost about $50, it's worth $500 today. Imagine if you planted 10 trees, 100 trees, 1,000 trees, 5,000, 10,000 trees, what you would be sitting on today if you had taken action, because that 15 years goes very, very fast. So people say, well, when's the best time to plant? Well, probably 15 years ago. So when's the second best time to plant? Today, to get started today. And we're going to sweeten it by offering another thing that we do on a monthly basis is what we call our Timber and Discovery Tour. Each month we take a group of interested parties down to visit our plantations, to see the country, to experience the region, the beauty of Nicaragua and Central America, to find out firsthand if everything we say is true. And you know, we're talking about building a long-term relationship here, folks. Something that's we're both in this together. We've been there for a long time, and we're planning on being there a long time. And we want you to be able to experience it for yourself. And those many clients have not visited, but many clients who had interest have gone down and visited. And to see that the way we manage our plantations is the same way we manage the plantations for our private ownership. There's always that that fear of, well, are they going to take care of mine the way they take care of theirs? And I'll give you a quick little story. Years ago, when I was on a chain of retail stores, we specialized in restoring one-of-a-kind products or items. And we would often have people come in and say, well, this is the only one of its kind here. I'm going to leave it with you. Sure hope you don't have a fire. And my response was, I'm sure that I don't want to have a fire either, because not only will your item may be lost in the fire, but I will lose my entire livelihood. So we take every precaution possible to make sure the way we run our company and our corporate plantations covers the way we do take care of your plantation, private ownership plantations as well. We also can show you how to supercharge your IRA, how to safely turn a 500K IRA into 5 million. Once again, our opportunity is for accredited investors only. We can be contacted at info@precioustimber.com, or you can call us at 855-888-6288. We look forward to answering any of your questions. Our website, once again, is PreciousTimber.com. There's an abundance of information on the website, including the blog, like I mentioned before. And I'm going to close the webinar and thank you for your time. We sure hope that you enjoyed the presentation. And once again, my name is Craig Colley, Head of Strategic Planning for Precious Timber. So hope you enjoyed the presentation. As Precious Timber, we grow money, and so can you. We look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you very much, everyone.